Hello, everyone. The European Specialist Sports Nutrition Awards are excited to welcome back Inform Sport as its sponsor for the 2022 edition of the event. We're here today with Terence O'Rourke, Business Development Manager at LGC. Hello, Terence. Could you tell us a few words about Inform Sport and what is the mission, what is the vision of your company?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody, and thanks, Aris. It's good to be involved again with the Essen Awards. So Informed Sport is a global testing and certification program. It's been in operation since 2008. It is managed by the international life sciences company LGC and is part of the LGC Assure division. So essentially, it's a program which allows athletes and consumers to use sports nutrition products and supplements without the fear of those products causing any issues with regards to contamination and an anti-doping violation. Essentially, it is a quality assurance program with the added component of testing for banned substances. It is based on the two fundamental pillars of quality assurance. The first one is every product must undergo a very rigorous assessment of the manufacturing of the product. We will, in that process, we will look at the ingredients, the formulation, where it is manufactured. We'll make sure that the manufacturer has all the correct food safety regulations and audits in place. We will look to see if there's segregation, if it's required, and all the critical points around the manufacturing. Only when the product has completed that assessment and we are happy with everything, will it be permitted to be on the program. The second pillar is that we must test every batch of a certified product before that batch goes to market. So if, for example, you are a brand and you manufacture 20 batches a year of a whey protein product, we must test all 20 batches before inventory from that batch goes out for sale. That way we can make sure that athletes, consumers, whether they're keep fitters or weekend warriors, make sure that they are not using products which have not tested negative. Essentially, Informed Sport is the most robust program available for the sports nutrition and supplements industry. We make no excuses for it being very robust. It's a tough program. We set very strict standards and very strict requirements. But the good thing is the industry has embraced it. And since 2008, it has grown at a very encouraging level. We started off in the UK. It was then adopted in North America, in places like Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. It's now very big in Japan. It's growing in Southeast Asia. So it's we've been very encouraged by how it's been adopted globally as the leading program for elite athletes and consumers.
Thank you, Terence. That's very interesting. And what do you think it is important for businesses in the sector to certify their products?
Sure. That is a very good question, and you know I'm asked this all the time, and I think there's a number of what we call drivers to a brand deciding to join the program. The first one is, for whatever reason, the sports nutrition industry does have a reputation amongst some stakeholders in sport that they are not as regulated and that the industry is not as certified as much as it could be. I don't necessarily agree with that, but there is, at the same time, there's a lot of evidence to show that contamination with substances banned in sport can enter the manufacturing process. It's just a reality of the nature of the substances we test for, and also the fact that much of the manufacturing is possibly done in facilities that also manufacture other types of goods. There have been many studies over the years to show that contamination can happen. I mean, some studies have showed that contamination with substances such as stimulants or steroids, as many as 1 in 10 products can be contaminated. So it's this sort of data that was behind LGC setting up Informed Sport. We also have a lot of evidence to show that athletes do fail doping tests because of sports nutrition products and supplements. It's not uncommon to read in the newspapers of athletes, having committed a violation, having their careers badly impacted, having their results taken away, or even medals taken away. So there are a lot of drivers why brands come on board, as well as providing that quality assurance. Informed Sport also does allow the brands themselves to look internally at their manufacturing, to look internally at the suppliers of the raw materials, at who is doing the actual manufacturing of the product. So there's a lot of benefits to it, and once a company is on board, they can also use the Informed Sport program to market their products. They can show their consumers that the products are manufactured to high quality standards and they are tested for every batch before it's released to market. So it's not uncommon these days for consumers of not just sports nutrition, but all types of foods, all types of consumer goods, to look for what we call third-party certification. They want to know that the hard-earned money that they're spending on certain types of products are made to high standards and do not present any risks. They want to make sure that there has been what we call third-party oversight of that manufacturing. And it crosses all range of consumer products, whether it's from household goods through to furniture, through to health products, through to sports nutrition, through to general foods. So it's a trend which I think is going to continue in the sports nutrition industry. I think more and more people want to see that the supplements and the sports nutrition products are certified by third parties.
Thank you, Terence. And what are the risks and the repercussions for companies to say if their samples are tested positive or if they're not compliant with the program?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, Informed Sport is a very robust program. All of our customers across the world and all of the stakeholders, whether they are the anti-doping community or elite sport, they acknowledge Informed Sport and they support it because they know how strict we are. Now, if a customer was to have a batch which tests positive, we will alert them straight away. And the aim will be then to try and recall inventory from that batch. But the good thing is, because we do what's called pre-release, no inventory should be on the market. So we've limited that risk very, very, very much. But it does happen from time to time. We will see contamination in a batch. We try and minimize that risk as much as possible by having assessed the manufacturing and the ingredients before the product comes onto the program. But people cannot legislate for contamination at all stages of the supply chain. So if that happens, we will work with the brand. The inventory from the batch won't be released to market. And we will work with the brand to try and identify what the causes of contamination are. We've been doing this now for 15, 16 years. We test approximately 22,000 samples a year. We have, I can say this without any doubt, we have the very best scientists for this type of analysis, and for program managers for this type of industry. So if there is any contamination and we identify it, we're very good at finding the cause of it. So we will work with the customer to try and eliminate it. But certainly if we find it in an Informed Sport batch, that batch is not permitted to go to market.
And what is the impact of contamination of supplements for the sector from both a consumer and a business perspective?
Sure. Well, as a consumer, and particularly if you are an athlete who faces what we call doping controls, if you were to consume a product that was contaminated, you can put your whole career at risk. If you were to use a product which hadn't been tested and hadn't undergone certification, and that product is contaminated, you are responsible for what you've put in your body. And this is what we call the strict liability principle, which underpins the World Anti-Doping Code. So if you take something and you then test positive, you are responsible for that. So I'm sure you can imagine, the implications are very severe. It can totally ruin your career as an athlete. Professional athletes, they don't really have a long shelf life for their careers. They may only be at the top for 4, 5, 6 years. If you commit a doping violation, a lot of that period has been restricted by you serving a sanction for the violation. So the repercussions are very strict. There are also some health risks. There are certainly some disreputable brands out there who put substances in their products which they should not. They do it for a reason, and that can impact somebody's health. Very sadly, there have been tragedies in the past of some people taking products which gives them cardiovascular problems, and in one very sad case, it led to a tragic outcome. So a lot of reasons in terms of health as well as the anti-doping side of things. And also, if you look at it in other ways, if you perhaps I know more and more mature consumers now using sports nutrition these days, there's a lot of advice to give people to continue doing resistance training and certain types of exercise as they get older. A lot of that population might be using certain types of medicines, and if they were then to use a product which was contaminated with another type of substance, that could impact on how their medicines work within them. In terms of a brand, if a brand was to be found to be contaminated and had led to an anti-doping violation or indeed some sort of health risk, it can destroy the brand. It may not have been an intentional thing, but if they're not taking the steps to make sure that what they're providing to consumers, they're not making sure those steps aren't robust and rigorous, then they can put their whole brand at risk, and it could damage their reputation very badly. So the implications are pretty bad or pretty big for consumers and for the brands.
Yes, and which substances does Informed Sports screen for?
Sure. We have what we call our testing specification, and this essentially is a screen whereby we will put every sample through the laboratory, and they are screened for approximately 250 substances which are banned in sport. These substances are mostly listed on the World Anti-Doping Agency's prohibited list of substances and methods. So we will be looking at anabolic agents, at stimulants, various types of narcotics, beta agonists, and diuretics. As I mentioned earlier on, we have the very best scientists in our laboratory who monitor the risks that are out there and pose a risk to the industry in terms of somehow getting into the manufacturing process. And they will look not only at the World Anti-Doping Agency's list, but they will also use intelligence from the industry to assess whether new substances need to be added to the screen. But as it stands at the moment, it's approximately 250 banned substances, and it's always evolving just to keep an eye on any future risks.
Thank you, Terence. And could you elaborate also on the process of certification? So what are the main steps that businesses in the sector should know about?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, Aris, we have a very robust certification process whereby we will assess the manufacturing of the product, and we will also look at the ingredients used, and we'll look at the formulation. So we'll start off making a very quick review of the ingredients and of the formulation. Once we're happy with what's going into the product, we will then assess the manufacturing. And this is a very, very detailed process. As I did mention, we try and eliminate as much risk as possible at the start of the process. And we do that by reviewing all aspects of the manufacturing process. That's everything from the goods in, the type of machinery that's been used, from whether they need to have segregation into other critical points within the manufacturing process. At the same time as this very thorough assessment, we will also test the product. We will test it up to 5 times in certification, just to make sure that we have total confidence that when it's on the program, there is no chance of it failing the analysis. We will make sure that we are testing the commercial batches before it becomes part of the program. So say, for example, a brand or a manufacturer, they can't say, look, we're thinking of bringing this product to the market. We've done a little bit of product development. We've got some bench samples. These are the ones that we've put together with our food developers, and we want to have this tested and certified. So we wait until the actual finished product is made. We wait until it is in a sealed container or a sealed bag or sachet or whatever the forms of delivery. And only when we've tested 3 samples of that first commercial batch will the certification be completed. So it's very thorough, it's very strict. We know we're doing something right because, as I mentioned, that the program is growing. We have more than 1,300 products in the program now from across the world. And to date, we have not had one of our certified products implicated in any sort of doping violation or health risk. So we know we're doing the right thing, but it is robust, and brands and manufacturers have to go through a lot of steps to get onto the program.
Great. And lastly, so Inform Sport has been a sponsor of the ESN Awards since 2019. So could you tell us a few words about the event? Like, what do you think the event is important for the industry? And also,
Sure.
what are you most looking forward to about this year's ceremony?
Sure. Yes, it's a good question. I think the event is very good for the industry. You know, I think it's always important for members and key players in the sports nutrition industry to come together to share ideas, to talk about trends within the industry, trends from their consumers. I think it's also important to highlight the really good stuff that the industry has achieved, not only in terms of providing, you know, fantastic products, but also in terms of being able to say to their consumers that these products are made to really high quality standards and that they have embraced all forms of compliance, whether it's the ESNA's own compliance, whether it's Inform Sport, whether it's other food safety programs, to you know, to show people that it has a very keen focus on quality and meeting the needs of the consumer. And what better way of doing that than getting together once a year, meeting and, you know, and celebrating some of the new innovations, some of the new products, some of the new brands that are out there. Yeah, I think it's a really good thing. And, you know, after the tough 2 or 3 years that everybody's had with COVID and the pandemic and lockdowns and restrictions and traveling, I think it'll be a really good occasion for people to meet in person and to network and, you know, meet with like-minded people and have a good evening.